History Talk with Smith Co. Hello and welcome back to History Talk. Today we'll be once again looking at Home Rule and specifically the Third Home Rule Bill. So in April 1912, Asquith, who is the main leader in Westminster, presents the Third Home Rule Bill to Parliament. It offered Ireland a very limited amount of self-government. Like, to be honest, you're looking at here a pretty small amount. Like, I guess you could say if the British don't care about Ireland, they're not technically saying, oh no, Ireland, you're not allowed to pass this law. They're just like, oh no, we're not interested. That's the situation you have. So obviously there are certain laws which might get passed because they don't care. And obviously, when they don't care, they're not going to listen to people, and they're not going to support it if they don't really care. So, with that exception, it offers a very limited amount of self-government. So, its main points were Ireland was to have a parliament which would elect an Irish government. So, basically, the parliament would, under quotations, shall have the power to make laws for the peace, order and good government of Ireland, with the following limitations. Now, the limitations were a very, very, very long list of things the Irish Parliament would not actually control. They included the monarch, peace, war, armed forces, relationship with foreign governments, treason, because the British government is kind of famous for executing people for treason who are, oppressed by them, which is a bit of a weird thing to say, yes, you didn't want us in your country, but now that you tried to remove us, you are a traitor. Never really liked you, never really wanted to swear allegiance to you, so, Anyway, so it also included trade outside Ireland, postal services, and the police. It also included religion and taxation. Taxes would still be decided in Westminster, to which Ireland would still elect 42 MPs. Now, the money raised would then be given to Ireland in a lump sum to be spent according to the wishes of the Irish government. Laws passed by the Irish government could be blocked by the British Privy Council. Now, obviously, that's a problem. Because it's one thing, it's all well and good to be like, oh yeah, you can make decisions on all these things. Not these things, we'll make decisions on those things. But these things, you have a decision to make on. Unless we don't like it. If we don't like it, then we'll just go, no. That won't be allowed at all. And that's a problem, because the idea of home rule then is going to be a little bit kind of like, well, are you having self-government? You're really just basically just having a form of government where it's like, well, the British government basically have to agree to everything you pass. So it's a problem there. Now, the British Privy Council was actually a body of senior politicians and judges who advised the king. Now, obviously, to nationalists, this will be, well, it'll be what they expect, but it won't be very, it'll be more of a sort of like okay, fine, rather than an actual, yay, massive victory, we actually got home rule. It's not going to be that, it's going to be celebrated because it's better than we have, but it's going to be like, okay, so, we still have to, it's still not amazing. But for the Unionists, the Home Rule Bill threatened disaster. Because Carson and Craig knew that with the whole, Lord's veto gone, they could not stop it in Parliament, and they had to organise their resistance outside Parliament, as they had only 2 years to do it. Now, Home Rule's resistance when it comes to Unionists became pretty much as soon as the Parliament of Act removed the Lord's veto. At first it took the form of mass demonstrations held in Ulster and around Britain. However, the most impressive of these was staged in September 1912. Before it, Unionist leaders drew up a document called Ulster's Solemn League and Covenant. The title was deliberate echo of the Bible's account of the God's Covenant, which is the contract with the Jewish people. Now, it was meant to be convey the message that the Ulster Protestants, they too were God's chosen people. A little bit religious, but you're entitled to that. So the Covenant then stated that the Unionists oppose Home Rule because it would be disastrous to the material well-being of Ulster, as well as the whole of Ireland, submersive of our civil and religious freedom, destructive of our citizenship, and perilous to the unity of the Empire. Now, all of those who signed it pledged themselves to stand by one another in defending our cherished position of equal citizenship in the United Kingdom, and in using all means which may be found necessary to defeat the present conspiracy to set up a Home Rule Parliament in Ireland. And in the event of such a Parliament being formed first upon us, as we farther solemnly pledge ourselves to refuse to recognise its authority. Obviously, somewhat problematic there. So, obviously, if you're a general unionist, you might think, okay, sure, I don't think I want to have a home rule area. But what happens when people take that line of, force that's necessary and view it as all means that may become necessary to defend the present conspiracy? Then, you see, what that means is that suddenly you see these well-drilled, armed men appear at Unionist demonstrations. These men are known as the Ulster Volunteers. In 1911, some orange men in Tyrone had begun to drill and arm men in secret. Soon after, an old law was unearthed, and it allowed justice of the peace to permit men to drill for the purpose of maintaining the constitution of the United Kingdom, as now established. But the problem with this was that many of the justices of the peace were unionists, and that meant that they were very happy to give permission to allow men to march. After that, Ulster volunteer units sprang up all over Ulster. So, for Castle and Craig, this development was a mixed blessing. Volunteers could be used to put pressure on the government, but there was a danger that some of them might engage in violence, and this might damage the cause. Because, if you're using violence when you don't need to, well, that becomes a little bit problematic down the line. It's like, okay, so you're known for using violence when you don't need to. So the situation that they decide to go on is that they will bring them under their control. So the Ulster Unionist Council united all these separate volunteers into one body, the Ulster Volunteer Force. This is in early 1913. Now, they appointed a retired general, Sir George Richardson, as their commander. Many former British soldiers actually joined the UVF and began to actually drill the volunteers, along with many wealthy sympathisers, helping to set up a secret arms fund which contained £1 million by 1914. Now, what's interesting about this is that leaders actually go to Germany to buy arms, and in fact, well, when they go there, before they go there, they begin to drill volunteers with wooden guns. This allows Richmond and Aspert to underestimate the threat posed by the UVF. Carson hoped that the mass demonstrations with the UVF would convince people in Britain that Irish Protestants were vehemently opposed to Home Rule, and that might force Liberals to drop it. But that is not very successful. However, there is one party that, does support Unionists all along the way, and that party is the Conservative Party. A party that continues to this day. Whether you like the Conservative Party or not, Anyway, so please do join us next time when we're looking at the Conservative Party and its support for the Unionists. And then you might want to, in that time, view other videos. It helps. Also subscribing to the YouTube channel, actually. It helps a lot. So, you can do that today. I mean, you know, you could do that, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening, and if you're not going to view other videos and we're not going to see you next time, I guess I'll simply say this. Hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of your existence. And I guess I'll just say bye, bye, bye.